Hello and welcome to episode 2 of the Julia the Knitter podcast. Welcome back to any returning viewers, and a great big hi there. Welcome to anybody new and just finding us for the first time, which I would imagine is plenty of you since this is only the second episode. My name is Julia and I am coming to you from Queens, New York, where I live with my handsome husband, my 2 crazy kids, and my wild beast of a dog. This is a podcast mainly about knitting and basically any crafty endeavors I find myself getting into. But let's dive in and get started. Go grab yourself a cup of tea and let's talk about what we're working on. So, I didn't think this was going to happen this week. I planned on recording yesterday, but it was also my son's birthday, so there's a whole lot of things going on. So, I'm a day late. So, I do have a finished object, which I wasn't planning on having. It was nearly finished yesterday. I just had a few rows to go before I could start the toe, and the toe on socks goes pretty darn quick. So I'm just going to grab a sock blocker so I can show off the sock pretty well. I'll only do one of the socks. But these are the socks that I am knitting for my husband for Christmas. So my first Christmas knit of the season is done. As I mentioned last week, I am terribly behind in my Christmas knitting, as I usually start by the end of August, beginning of September, and it's the beginning of November. So I think Christmas knits this year are going to be a little on the light side, or quick projects. So these aren't blocked yet. They're pretty fresh off the needles, but these are a vanilla sock for my husband. They are knit out of Baerenwolle yarn, who is a German dyer, and this is her BaerFoot sock base, which is 20% virgin wool, Merino, and it's Superfine, and 20% Polyamide. I like a good 80-20 mix for my socks. I feel like it wears very well. The colorway is Northern Lights, so if you can see, it's got these neon greens and purples and little pops of dark green and gray against a black background, and it's pretty cool. I really enjoyed it, and the socks feel really soft. I kind of just did my standard vanilla sock that fits the way my husband's foot needs it to fit, so, for lack of a better description. I do a 2x2 rib, and I usually do it till it looks about right. He doesn't like a huge leg, so I did about 5 inches between the cuff and the leg, and then I just did a heel flap and gusset and a vanilla stockinette sock foot, and that's about it. I've got 2 of them. I've got both socks finished. I know when we spoke last time, I only had about this much done of the first sock, so I got quite a lot done on these socks this week. So that's that. That's the only finished thing I've got this week. You will notice that this week is a little light on the knitting because Halloween was early this week. So I make my kids' costumes, so there's a whole lot of sewing going on, and my knitting I just didn't have time to do both. It was a fairly busy week between Halloween and my son's birthday and everything else that goes along with being a mom. So that's that. I also managed to get in a few rows on my granny stripe blanket. I don't think I mentioned last week what size hook I was using for this. I'm using a size G hook, and it's nothing fancy. It's one of those cheapo boy hooks that you can get in a set at like Michael's or AC Moore, any one of those craft stores. But yeah, it's just a simple hook. And it's a bunch of scraps from projects. I do have a few minis from Homespun House. I'm actually currently working on one right now. And I received a few minis in the fiber swap this year. So I added in about, let's see, I think I was about here last week. So, I got a few rows in. And, maybe it doesn't look like that much here, but these rows are pretty gigantic. This is big enough to fit on a queen-size bed, so each row is pretty long, and it takes a while. So I probably got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11-ish rows actually crocheted on this since we spoke last. I'm sorry, I'm tripping over my words today. it's been a little bit of a crazy day. I had a problem with my alarm clock this morning. Thankfully, I woke up in time to catch it, but it was a big rush around to get the kids to school and everything this morning, so I feel like I haven't actually calmed down yet. So that's this. I'm not going to talk too much about the granny stripe blanket. Everybody and their mother is making one. It's just, in all honesty, it's a way to kind of clean up all those scraps that I've got all over the place. And it's pretty. And when I first started dating my husband, he had asked me to make him a blanket for Christmas. I'd only known him, this was probably the beginning of November that he had asked me. I'd only known him for about 2 months at that point. And all I could think was, a blanket? Are you freaking kidding me? Do you know how huge those things are? And you're asking me for Christmas now? So I did make him a blanket. And I knit it up in these 3 long panels on big needles, and it was worsted weight, maybe line brand worsted weight, and it held double, so it actually did go very quickly. The quickest blanket I ever made. And since then, that blanket has gone to very many places with him. He was in the military, and so that blanket has stayed with him through some dodgy areas, to say the least. And now it's home, and that blanket has become our family blanket. Now, after many years of wear and tear, it could use a little loving patchwork, which I don't know if I can patch it up, to be honest. It's got some pretty gaping holes. We'll see. I may. But regardless of that, I'm making this other blanket to maybe replace it, or, just kind of, we could swap it out now and again. So this way, we all snuggle up under it, under a blanket when we watch TV together with the kids before we go to bed. And it's just part of our evening routine. It'd be called the family blanket. And we could use a new one. So that's that. That's about all the knitting crocheting that's been done this week. I know, I told you, it wasn't that much. But I did get a lot of sewing done this week. So let's talk about sewing. So my son, who just turned 2 yesterday, was a minion for Halloween. And I made him a minion hat. And I found this really cute tutorial online from, what was the website? Instructables.com. And it's just, it's yellow fleece. And I cut out some eyes and goggles and little hairs with felt. And I just sewed it up. It was actually really quick. The only thing I didn't like about this tutorial is that it really didn't give you a size. So I was making it, sewing it up, not really knowing how big it was going to come out. I'm sure I could have just measured my kid's head and compared it with the measurements in there, but it really was just a bare bones tutorial. In terms of steps and how to do everything, that was pretty clear, but measurements were sorely lacking. What kind of materials to use was not there. So I was kind of going into this blindly. I also have never sewn a hat before, so a lot of that was kind of new. If I were to make this again, I would get I'd pay attention to measurements first. 2, I'd get a material with a little bit more stretch, because we lucked out that this went around my son's head just right. I think if his head was any bigger, he would not have been very comfortable in it. It would have been pretty snug. And who really wants something squeezing their head? I know I don't. It gives you a headache. So we worked out with that. We lucked out that way. But it was very tall. As you see, it's a tall hat. So I'm not really sure how this is supposed to fit, what size it's supposed to fit. But maybe if I were to make it out of jersey, that might have been better. I don't know. But we wound up folding up the brim for most of the night. And, that was good enough. He wore a pair of overalls and a yellow long-sleeve t-shirt underneath. And everybody knew what he was. And this was the first year that he was starting to kind of get the trick-or-treating thing. And so he was loving knocking on the doors. And we weren't really sure if he was going to wear the hat all night. But he did. And he had a lot of fun. You can't see trick-or-treat. So we just knocked on the door. Treat! and he was pretty darn cute. So that was costume number 1. That was the easy costume. Costume number 2 was for my daughter, who is 9. And she wanted to be a Hogwarts student in House Gryffindor. She's really into the Harry Potter books this year. We've been reading them together. Not together, like we're both reading the books. I'm nearly done with the series and she just finished the 5th book. Or she started the 5th book. But she didn't want to be Hermione, she didn't want to be Harry, she didn't want to be Ron or any specific character from the books. She just wanted to be her as a student in Gryffindor. So my brother's girlfriend was at Harry Potter's Wizarding World in Universal over the summer, and she brought Emma back a wand, a Harry Potter wand from Universal, and my daughter loves it. It's actually a pen, and you take the cap off and you can write with it, but the tip lights up, which is really, really cool. So that was part of the costume. So first, I made her a cape, robes, I'm sorry, that's not a cape. Gryffindor robes. And I got some cheap fabric from Joann's. And it's kind of like, it looks kind of like brushed velvet or velvet. It's very velvety. I don't really know what exactly the fiber content is. It's probably mostly polyester. But I got black and I got red, and so I lined it with the red, and she wanted the sleeves. We did a lot of custom fitting here. So she wanted the red to go over the sleeves. And it's pretty big. I mean, it probably came down to about her mid-calf. It was good. My lining in the back was, it wound up showing in the back, which wound up being pretty cool, but it wasn't really my intention. But the material itself had a lot of really good drape, so as she was walking, it really swished a lot, and it looked really, really cool. And on Etsy, I didn't write down the name of the store, but I was able to get her a Gryffindor iron-on patch, which I put onto her robe, and also a Gryffindor tie. So it's the red tie with yellow stripes and had the little Gryffindor insignia on the bottom. So she had that, and she goes to a private school, so she has a lot of white collared shirts. So she wore one of her shirts, a pullover sweater over it with the tie, her robes, and then I made her this little skirt. I think I used maybe 1.25 yards of fabric, and it feels kind of like felt. It might be wool. I'm not really sure. You know how Joann's is with their fabric. I like Joann's because you can get cheap fabric and you can kind of see what it is and kind of get what you need. The organization of that store drives me out of my mind. I'm sure there's a rhyme and a reason to it. I don't know what it is. So I made her the skirt. It's got an elasticized gathered waist, and it was so simple. And I sewed it up so quickly. Now the pattern for the skirt was in the Making magazine, issue number 3, Dots, and they actually, if you haven't gotten a chance to check this out, it's really nice. They have the 4th one, Making Lines, just came out recently. So each one has a theme, and it's not just knitting or sewing. It's got a lot of different crafts in it, which I really enjoy. So there's weaving, there's quilting, there's embroidery, there's sewing, there's crochet. There's all kinds of really cool things in here, and I like the aesthetic, and it's got a lot of different people contributing patterns to it, and I really like that. I know in the Making issue number 4, I haven't gotten a chance to really go through that one yet, but I know it has a recipe for like a chai hot toddy or something along those lines, which sounds right up my alley. I don't like sweets, so I might have to cut out like some of the honey or something like that, but I like a good chai tea. But yeah, so I got this pattern in here. Let me go to the pattern. I'll tell you a little bit more about it. Okay, it's the Starry Skies skirt by Ray Hoekstra. I'm not gonna give you too much of the information regarding measurements and what you need and you know, the secret sauce, because it is a paid-for pattern. If you want it, you're going to have to go get the book. But it's so simple, and the instructions are really well laid out. There's not really a pattern so much for this because it's a pretty basic skirt. But it was very well laid out, and it was very clear, came together so quickly, and I actually, if I'd had enough fabric of this left over, I would have made another one for myself, because one, this fabric is so soft, I can't resist plaid. I'm sure it has something to do with growing up in the Irish family that I have, because we all have a love for kilts and etc. But also the years of Catholic school just, I guess it ingrained it inside my subconscious. I don't know. I can't resist plaid. But I have enough to make another skirt for my daughter in the same size, which, I don't know. Maybe I'll make it for one of my nieces or something like that. I'm sure they'd get a kick out of that. But it just came together so nicely, and it was so easy, and I love it. I had never, as silly as it sounds, I'd never made a skirt quite like this before. But it's good. My daughter does want to learn how to sew, and over the summer we had planned to make pajama pants together. But summer just gets so busy that we just didn't get the chance. So she wanted to help me make her costume. So she did help me with the robes a little bit. But I think we could probably make a skirt like this together. I think she could probably pull it off real quickly. And I think if we make it again, we might throw pockets in. Just little like inseam pockets. I think that's where it's at. But that's really all there is to be said about that skirt. That was Halloween. We really loved it. I love Halloween. Halloween is one of my favorite holidays. As I mentioned, I don't like sweets. I don't have a sweet tooth whatsoever. I know. I'm out of my mind. Believe me, I know. So for me, the best part about Halloween is the costumes and carving jack-o'-lanterns, which seems to be nobody in our area does that. We were the only house that had carved pumpkins with candles in them. I just, doesn't anybody do that anymore? I don't know. It's one of my favorite things, so we never miss it. And I'm passing on that love to my kids, so they're going to love it too. They're going to love it. And then I like the costumes. I still dress up most years for Halloween. This year, actually the past few years, I haven't done too much. My son, I guess ever since my son was born, my son was due right before Halloween, and I wound up going late, and we didn't know when he was gonna come, so I kind of did it real quick. My daughter was Bugs Bunny that year, so I got a pair of bunny ears and a wig, and we kind of winged it. And then last year, you know, between having an almost 1-year-old, my mental capacity was just not where it needed to be to make myself a costume. I could get my kids' costumes done, and that was about all I could do. So I made up the Mesa dress by Colette Patterns in their Seamwork magazine. It's a knit dress, and it was actually really simple to put together. That's what I like about those Seamwork patterns. They're nice patterns. I like them. And Colette Patterns, they tend to fit me right. I usually don't have to do too much tweaking to get the fit right. So I made up this pattern that was this pattern. I sewed up this dress, and the pattern on the fabric, it was knit fabric, and it's orange with these charcoal gray stripes and little jack-o'-lanterns all over it. So that's my Halloween dress now. So I wore that last year. I wore it this year, and it was pretty nice. I like it. It's so comfy. I actually want to make that pattern again in a few other colors. Maybe shorten it a little bit, or no, not shorten it. I don't know. I might fool around with the length of it. I wouldn't mind putting long sleeves on a version of it. But I need a dress to that in every color for all seasons, I feel like. But that's about it. That was Halloween. Another book that came out recently that I don't know if you've all gotten the chance to look through it, but I got it recently, and I think today's the official release date, or maybe yesterday was. I know Hannah Lisa and Verena were having a release party at a local yarn store by them in Berlin with the book, but I had pre-ordered this book ages ago. And Woods, oh my goodness, have you guys seen this book? It is gorgeous. The idea, I guess the theme of this book is kind of, staying local and sustainable. So a lot of the yarn that they use in this book are all European yarns because they're based in Berlin, and it's all kind of local to them. And what was really cool is that with each pattern, they talked to the person who designed the pattern, and they also talked to the person that created the wool, I guess the dyer or what have you, and they interview them before each pattern, and I think that's really cool. And my favorite part of this whole book is the knit night chat with each designer or dyer, etc. And it's just like, what do you do when you're making things? Or what's your favorite making tool? What making failures do you laugh about? What's your favorite making memory or tradition? Let's see. And they ask a lot of similar questions to each person. What would you like to experiment with? Any crafting challenges you might have had, or etc. I think it's charming. I love it. And the patterns in here are beautiful. There's a few sweaters. There's actually this really nice knit dress that I'd like to make up, but I feel like it might take me forever. And I have to look at the shaping because it's not like, I know the boxy shape is in. It doesn't suit me. I need something that's a little bit more form-fitting. I'm curvy. I'm not big, but I'm curvy. I have hips, and I have chest, and I have a waist. But if you cut off that waist, I look massive. So I have to pay attention to things like that when I'm making sweaters and things like that. But there's some really nice sweaters. There's some really nice accessories. There's this pair of mittens that I can't wait to knit up. I might have to wait till after Christmas because I really should be working on Christmas knitting and not knitting everything for me, which is basically all that I want to do is knit for me this year, which is so unlike me. But anyway, these are the Winterfold mittens by Claire Walls, and it's knit up in South Downs yarn. Oh man, but there's just so many beautiful things in here. I'm not going to go through each and every single pattern in there because I'll be sitting here all day. They're just all beautiful. Go get a copy. Go check it out, and let's just make everything in there. I know that Verena and Hannah-Lisa are starting to work on the next issue, which is Breeze. I don't think it'll be out. Actually, I'm not sure when they're planning on getting out. I think they're looking to start test knit patterns in the next few months. So we'll see. We'll see when that one comes out. I love it. But that's that in terms of knitting and sewing and crocheting and knitting finds that I'm really interested in right now. What else has been going on? Oh, Rhinebeck. So let's talk about Rhinebeck. Were you guys there? I was. I know I mentioned last time I was going to drive up Friday. So we went up Friday and we hit a lot of traffic. We didn't go to Indian Tangled or anything. We hit a lot of traffic, and we just went straight to my parents, which is probably about another 45 minutes north of where the New York Sheep and Wool Festival is in the Dutchess County Fairgrounds. We wanted to go up and spend the weekend with them, so we went, and my brother was up for the weekend, so we hung out, we ate some pizza, we giggled, and my parents just got a new puppy, so my dog and their puppy were rolling all over each other and kind of hashing out who's the boss. My dog is not a big dog. She's a terrier. She weighs maybe 15 pounds. She thinks that she's a Great Dane. I'm convinced, because she just walks up to the biggest dog she can find and kind of, who you talking to, fool? That's my dog. She gets along with other dogs. There's a few dogs around our neighborhood that she just does not like. Why? I don't know. They don't work out. But, so we were kind of curious to see how it was going to go with my parents' dog. They just got a German Shepherd puppy. And the puppy, when we went up, was probably about the same size as my dog. That dog, I swear, is bigger every single day. We went to bed and we woke up the next day and that dog was bigger. He's going to be huge. But he's really cute. And the two dogs, Saoirse, my dog is Saoirse and their dog is Sturgis. The Saoirse and Sturgis were loving each other up all weekend, and it was adorable. So we let them run around and wear each other out. Saturday morning, I got the kids together, and I didn't really rush out of the house because I'm up there to see my parents too, and they like to see the grandparents. But I wasn't going to leave at 7 o'clock in the morning to get there. So we left Mom and Dad's probably about 10, and there's a little bit of traffic outside the fairgrounds. I probably got there around 11 or so, maybe even 10:30. I don't know. I don't remember. Not important. I have to say, because you're all going to think I'm completely out of my mind, and maybe I am. But this was one of the most well-run, organized festivals I've ever been to, and that just pleases me to no end. I love nothing more than something that's well organized. I don't run as many road races as I used to. I'm a runner, but my mom also runs, and we do races together a lot. Nothing drives me crazier than a poorly organized race. So when we got to this festival, there was a little traffic getting in, but you had the local police guiding you in and directing traffic into the fairgrounds, which was great. You had people directing you exactly where to park. It was perfect. It was seamless. No problems anywhere. You got in. We had already gotten our ticket, so we were able to go straight in. It was really, really well organized, and it just made me so happy. The map, I wound up not using it because it drove me crazy. It was hard to when you're running around with two kids, it's not that easy to kind of go, okay, A is this, and I don't know what buildings was. So we kind of just walked around and did our thing. There were so many people there. I knew it was going to be crowded, but I guess knowing it's going to be crowded and seeing how crowded it actually is are two different things. It was a little overwhelming with just how much stuff there was, and there was so much to look at. Which made me nervous because I knew I didn't want to spend that much money while I was there. I bought a little bit of stuff, but not much, and I'm very happy with my purchases. I know that I wanted to check out Wool, and I wound up buying yarn from them. And I knew that I wanted to replace my Notions pouch. I had a little Notions pouch, little zipper case from Namaste Bags. I believe it was Namaste. I think that's the company. I think they're out of business now, but they used to do like the faux leather knitting bags and stuff like that. But this was just a little zipper pouch, and I've had it for years and years and years. And maybe about a year ago, the zipper broke on it. I was so upset. So I've been kind of keeping my things in a little tin, and it doesn't fit all the stuff that I like to keep in my knitting bag. And it's so noisy, so it was driving me crazy. So I know that I wanted to get a new Notions bag. So that was my shopping list. There are a few kind of things on, like, if I see it, maybe I'll get it kind of deal, but I was okay. My daughter, actually, she cracked me up. She's like, when I'm older and I've got all the money in the world, I'm going to go to festivals like these and just buy everything. And I just go to her, me too. So she wound up buying a skein of yarn for herself in this pink color, which I was a little surprised by because her and I, we're not pink girls. And this was just this, I will say, it was like the perfect bubblegum pink. I don't even know who she bought it from. I'd have to go and find her yarn and check it out for her. So she saw it, and she saw a lot of things that she liked while we were walking around, and I kind of told her, listen, here's our plan. We'll look at it now, because I didn't want her spending all her money too. If you see it again later, after everything that you've seen, and you still want that one, then we can get it. So, and, you know, she had her own money. She gets her allowance for doing her chores every week. And like, if you want it, you can get it. But see what else is there. See if there's anything you want more, or you like better, or there's more, something that sparks your interest more. But at the end of the day, she still wanted it. We walked back and it was still there, and she saw it and she got it, and it was beautiful. I don't know who it was. I know they had a lot of Angora in their shop. They're on the corner, kind of before you get to like the food area. I don't know. But it was pretty nice. I bought, as I mentioned, a new knitting waistband. I didn't fill it up yet because I wanted to show it to you all nice and stuff. And this is from 3 Bags Full. They are on Etsy if you are interested. But it's just got these little floral designs, and I just like that. And on the inside, it's got green polka dots. I love polka dots. And I was kind of between that and another bag. It was pink and had birds on it. But I go to my daughter, this one or this one? She said this was the one, so I agreed. But this is her card, and it is Michelle Corbeil makes these bags, and she is from Maine, and they are hand-sewn bags, and they are really cute. They've got a Ravelry group for 3 Bags Full Studio if you guys are interested in it, and they are also on Etsy if you want to go check out their bags. But it's nice, it's sturdy. There might be, I think there's probably a little interfacing in between the layers here, and it's good. It should fit everything that I like to carry around with me, like, you know, highlighter, pens, all my knitting stitch holders and progress keepers and scraps and scissors, tape measures, all the stuff that goes into knitting. So that's that. And then I bought a few skeins of this gorgeous red yarn from Wool. And this is in their O-Wash fingering, and it is 100% machine washable, certified organic merino. There is 428 yards in each 3.5 ounce skein, 100 gram skein. And I got 4 skeins of this, and that is enough. I wanted like a sweater quantity of fingering weight yarn. I was trying really hard not to buy like every single color that they had, because I really like their colors. And this, I like red. I actually don't wear a lot of red, so it'll be nice to have. I wear a lot of blues, actually. Jewel tones I go for. I know, as today I'm wearing everything but that. What else did I do? Oh, we also came home with some dog treats. Patricia McGrath of Laughing Paw Farm, here's her card. She makes these really delicious dog treats. I'm assuming they're delicious. Normal ingredients like applesauce, eggs, and peanut butter, and sweet potatoes, and stuff like that. I can get behind something like that. I don't like putting crap into my kids. I don't like putting crap into my dog. But that's that. Also, while we were there, they had this nice, I guess, like a kids crafting area. So we went, and they had a few different choices. There's like, you can make a sock puppet out of old sweaters, or they had embroidery hoops that you can kind of sew stuff into. I can't remember all the projects, but my daughter actually wound up picking this needle felting kit. And so she really enjoyed it, which I was surprised. I've tried needle felting a few times. It's okay. It's okay. I've made some pretty cool things, but it's not my favorite. But she was making this cute little scarecrow. I think it's pretty cute. She's not done. So we'll probably keep working on it. Maybe she'll work on it a little bit this weekend. It's hard to do things during the week because school just takes over everything. She's in 4th grade this year, and workload has increased dramatically. What else can I say about Rhinebeck? The food was good. We wound up going for the burrito bowls, which I thought they were delicious. And then I had a few fleeces that I brought from home with me that I wanted to drop off for processing, because the farm that I was interested in dropping them off to or shipping them to was actually going to be there. So I figured, I save myself the shipping and I'll drop them off. So I did, and I met the woman who runs the farm, and it's Baerenwolle Farms, and I dropped off my fleeces, and hopefully they should be back to me, she said, by March, and that'll be good. And once they come back, I will be dyeing them up. I do have an Etsy shop. It's kind of barren at the moment. I think I only have 2 skeins in the shop right now. This really, really nice merino yarn. It's probably about a heavy worsted weight, but my shop is Olandacha on Etsy if you are interested in checking it out. But I've been needing to get these fleeces processed so I can dye things up to put them in the shop. They've been sitting in my closet for a very long time. So my shop is kind of, been on the back burner, but once these 2 come back, I'd like to get that up and running a bit more. Because it's a lot of fun dyeing yarn. Have you ever tried it? It's so much fun. I just do it right here in my kitchen on my stove, and my daughter is dying to help me with the dye pots, and maybe I'll let her help me make a colorway that's her custom colorway. We'll see. We'll see. But more on that as that comes closer and we get up to that. And that's really all about I have going on right now. Yeah, like I mentioned, yesterday was my son's birthday, so I was making a cake yesterday. I cook a lot of things from scratch. I'm not really big into the mixes and like box cakes, and not that there's anything wrong with that, but that's just not how I grew up. My mom made everything from scratch, so to me that's just how things are done. My mom made our Halloween costumes, and my mom was pretty cool, because you could be basically whatever you want to be when you make your own Halloween costumes. And I don't know how my mom did it, but I'd come up with some pretty crazy stuff. Like one year I was a 2-headed monster, and my mom made a costume for it. So she's really cool like that. But it's the same with cooking. You make things from scratch. That's just how you make things. So that's how I do things now. So I was looking for a recipe that was going to be quick, because during the week, our schedules are kind of tight. One, I'm chasing around a 2-year-old all day. And then I've got to leave at 4 to pick up my daughter, and I'm not back home till 7. So before I leave, I have to get dinner started, so this way when my husband comes home, because he gets home a little bit before I do from work, dinner's mostly done. We kind of just have to do a few more quick things to get it on the table, and then we usually have homework to do, and we've got all kinds of stuff. So I needed a quick cake, something that wasn't going to take too long. I really didn't want to mess with frosting, because you got to wait for the cake to cool, and then you got to frost it, and sometimes a lot of the frostings I use, you got to use the frosting right away, right after you make it, and I knew that really was not going to work out for yesterday. So I found this recipe in my America's Test Kitchen cookbook for hot fudge pudding cake, which I had never heard of. I had never made. It was kind of interesting in the way it comes together. I didn't really read the recipe through beforehand, but I knew, I'm like, all right, I have most of these ingredients, so I know it's just a real quick trip to the store, and that was it. So it's got like I guess it would be the hot fudge bottom. It's liquidy chocolate and liquidy on the bottom, and then it's almost like a brownie on top, and you serve it warm with ice cream on top. And it was a pretty big hit. The kids loved it. One of my brothers showed up, and his girlfriend, they loved it too. I don't eat cake, so I couldn't tell you, but it smelled good. It smelled good and chocolatey, and it was good. But that's about it. That's all I've got going on this week. I really have to start getting cracking on my Christmas knitting. I was thinking about making the Force Awakens hat on Ravelry for my daughter for Christmas. But it does call for sport weight. I really don't have a lot of sport weight in my stash. I have mostly fingering. I have some worsted. I have a very little bit of bulky. I have some lace weight, but it's primarily fingering, and some hand spun and things like that. But it was a really cool hat, and it's it's got color work going on. You have stormtroopers, and you have the TIE fighters, and it says The Force Awakens and Star Wars on it. We're a big Star Wars household, so I was looking at that pattern, and it calls for sport weight. I'm like, oh well, it's also written only for adult male or adult female, and my daughter, she doesn't quite have an adult size head. And I said, well, maybe if I drop it down to fingering, maybe it'll work. I don't know. So I'm trying to look through other projects to see if anybody has done that. Otherwise, I'm probably going to find something else. I'm thinking about kind of going the hat and mittens route for her. I might make a flax sweater for my son, because it's his turn for a sweater. My daughter got a new sweater last year. It's probably about his turn. I don't always make them both a sweater in a year, but her sweater is really nice, and it's good, and it still fits her. She doesn't really need another sweater because she's not a big sweater wearer. So, but my son could use a new sweater. For a second there, I was thinking about knitting up the Knitter's Dude sweater for my husband. Now, my husband is not a small man. He's a pretty big guy. He's about 6'4", and he's very broad. And his favorite movie is The Big Lebowski, and the sweater is inspired by the Dude sweater. And for about 2 seconds there, this past week, I said, oh, I could definitely make that in time for Christmas. And I had to smack myself in the face, because that's just insane. It's a big sweater. It's got color work. It's not going to happen by Christmas. I know he wants a new sweater. I can't get a sweater done for Christmas, I don't think. But I'm thinking about a sweater for him. I know my grandfather wears a really nice blue cable sweater that my husband really enjoys. And I've seen something along those lines, and maybe I'll make him something more along that line. Even still, it's not going to be done for Christmas. So, I don't know. I don't know what I'm going to make for Christmas for most people this year. I might make myself crazy. I might lose my mind entirely. But I should have started earlier. I can barely get myself to do it this year. I just don't know what's wrong with me. I've got no Christmas knitting mojo. I'm feeling, I guess, very grinchy. I just want all the knitting for myself. I have sweaters that I want to knit for myself. I'm going to start them after Christmas. I have big plans for that red wool. And I have another sweater's quantity of Lopi that I want to knit up for myself. In this nice, it's got a color work yoke. It's an Isolde pattern. I can't think of the name of it off the top of my head. But when I start knitting it, you'll know. But that's about it. That's all I've got going on for you this week. If you liked what you saw, please comment below, give me a thumbs up, and like the video. Subscribe to the podcast on YouTube, so this way you can get notifications when there's a new video. I'm not sure if I'm going to be recording every week or every 2 weeks. I know there's been 2 weeks since my last episode. We're still fairly new here to this, so we're just gonna take it as it goes. That's all I got for you. So, see you later. Have fun. Happy knitting. And I hope to talk to you soon. Bye.